Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session on interacting with Ethiopia, learning from Ethiopia, and growing with Ethiopia. Today, we are going to be talking on the opportunities for the IT sector, the IT enabled services sector, and the BPO sector for Indian companies, especially in Ethiopia and Africa in general. As we all know, Ethiopia is the gateway to Africa. And this is something that has been highlighted time and again, and it has been one of the most lucrative markets for Indian companies. We have to all understand that this is a sector that has been expanding globally and has been India's strength when it comes to the IT sector. We have our strengths. We have been working with this sector since a long time to come, and going to be for a long time to come. Today's session is curated with the support of the Embassy of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia in New Delhi, along with the Ethiopian Investment Commission. We welcome you all today to this lovely session, which we would like to begin with the national anthem of both the countries. Thank you so much. And it's once again a pleasure and an honor to be here with the of Embassy of Ethiopia in New Delhi in India, along with the Ethiopian Investment Commission. Today's session is focused specifically on the information technology companies and the opportunities that are present to all these companies, all these Indian companies for growing in Africa and especially in Ethiopia. I would like to personally thank the team at the Embassy, Honorable Ambassador Dr. Tizita Mulligeta, for making this event happen. A few lines on the Indian Chamber of International Business that I would like to highlight. Well, we are a chamber of small and medium businesses majorly. We are present in 42 countries and 12 states of India. We are looking forward to help Indian companies to grow abroad internationally and to help and assist each other in taking the opportunities that are not generally available. It is an opportunistic time for an Indian to grow globally. We are in the information technology segment, one of the leaders of the world. With this, I would like to hand over today's session to Honorable Ambassador, Her Excellency Dr. Tizita Muligeta, the Ambassador of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia to India, for her inaugural address. Welcome, ma'am. It's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you so much, Mr. Man. Good afternoon.
Ma'am, your audio is not clear just now.
The audio is not working.
Yes, now it's working. Now it's working. There was a problem with that.
Okay. Deputy Commissioner of Commission, Mr. Daniel, Indian businessman, and dear brothers from Ethiopia and India. First of all, it's a pleasure for me to be part of this important gathering, and I would like to thank ICIB and Team Ethiopian Embassy for making today's conference through. I know they have been doing very well, and is it not?
It keeps coming and going, madam. I think you need to be a little closer to the microphone.
Okay.
Perfect. Perfect.
What about now?
Perfect. Perfect.
Okay. So I'm really grateful for that. You know, Ethiopia is one of the oldest African countries that has a very good relation with India, and Ethiopia is also one of the fastest growing country in Africa. And Ethiopia has been an investment attraction for many Indian investors in different sectors, including in agriculture, food processing, pharma, textile, and the like. And currently, we could find close to 100 Indian companies participating in different sectors because Ethiopia has been a favorable destination for many investors, including India. So our embassy has been doing a lot of promotional work to promote what is found in Ethiopia to our Indian fellow businessmen, especially starting from the last few months. We also started to promote the Ethiopian IT sector to different Indian fellow businessmen because Ethiopia has started to show its commitment towards the IT sector. For instance, in June 2020, the government of Ethiopia launched a national digital transformation strategy that aspire country to have a digitalized economy in 2025. And this strategy will establish a policy framework to support commerce in the country, e-commerce in the country. So generally, we have seen the Ethiopian ICT sector evolving from time to time, even if there is a big gap, especially when we compare it with several African countries in the region. For instance, the current contribution of the communication sector to the GDP is approximately 2%, compared with 4% in average in the East Africa region. And also when we see the wireless penetration, the stats close to 56.2%. When we compare it to Sub-Saharan Africa, it is an average 35%. So this shows that there is a still gap, but for me, the gap can be also converted into a potential, something to be worked on, something that to start some kind of interaction. And the government of Ethiopia has also developed a list of approximately 100 e-service or electronic services which are needed for development in the next several years. And the government plans to expand the information and communication technology or ICT manufacturing industry, modernize infrastructure, and increase private sector participation. And it also plans to increase the number of mobile, broadband, and internet data users, enhance narrowband internet and fixed telephone services. and it expands international link capacity. So to this end, the government has developed different kind of infrastructure, including the IT park, which is exclusively allocated for IT purpose to help to attract the ICT service companies, particularly those which are involved in outsourcing activities. And the government has also a plan to manufacture and also export IT equipment from this specific park. Generally, when we see how Ethiopia is evolving into this ICT sector, we have seen some reforms. For instance, Ethiopia is moving forward with allowing multiple telecom operators. Like some years before, the country had only one telecom operator, which is dominantly held by the government. But starting from some few years, we are opening our door for multinational companies who are working in telecom sector. So as Ethiopia's broadband capacity expands, it is believed that e-service and mobile services are expected to grow significantly in the coming years. And as the government of Ethiopia also tries to digitalize the economy with plans to decrease cash transactions, which move toward using digital payment system, the time has arrived for Ethiopia to expand its e-services and mobile services. So for this, generally, the government of Ethiopia is ready to attract different kind of ICT companies which have the capacity and the willingness to work in partnership with different Ethiopian companies. And for this, the government has also provided several types of incentives, including tax holidays and duty-free and so on. Generally, there are several areas which any interested company can invest in the ICT sector. As I've already said, there is still a big gap, and a lot has not been yet done, but it has been started. So I just want to mention some of like the areas which an interested investor can work in. For instance, supply and launch of commercial satellite, IT infrastructure development projects, building communication tower and leasing to telecom operators, mobile banking service and outsourcing services, international financing, reporting standard and related financial standards, website software and technologies, data center development, software development for e-government services, call center development, IT business park management, web-based mobile market information sharing, ICT training center, business linkage with universities, and so on. So these are like, I hope it's going to be elaborated more through the presentation, but these are like the broad areas which are still open and waited the intervention from your side. So to this end, our embassy is always ready to facilitate any kind of interaction with officials or with different offices in Ethiopia. And if you have any kind of information or any kind of queries, our embassy is always open to support you and to provide you all the necessary information. So by saying this, I would again like to thank ICIB for its continuous support, I can say, to promote Ethiopia and India, and also India and Africa. So I'm really grateful for that. And I wish today's deliberation would come up with success, and I wish you all the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Excellency. Thank you so much. I mean, your kind words are always appreciated, and you've highlighted the sector very well, especially when it comes to skill development, when it comes to looking forward for all the opportunities with the universities there, tying up with the businesses, e-governance. This is something that is definitely what the Indian companies are looking for, basically opportunities. And we are also looking to train all the local Ethiopian companies in these sectors have joined partnerships, have joined projects, bringing them to India for training and also setting up joint operations there. So this is something that is a long-term project. We are hoping that this collaboration between India and Ethiopia will go a really long way. Indian companies are known to set up subsidiaries abroad very quickly with a faster turnaround, especially in the information technology sector. This has been evident by all the, you pick a country on the globe and you will find an Indian IT company there. So I think that says a lot about the Indian companies. We would like to once again thank you, ma'am, for assisting us today to have this session, and of course the embassy. But now would like to move forward for this session where we would like to have a special address which will highlight what is really the core of Ethiopian ethos. We would like to invite Mr. Daniel Teresa, who's the Deputy Commissioner of the Ethiopian Investment Commission. He shall highlight on something that has been very looking forward to, lucrative, and what we would like to hear for an Indian IT company that is looking to Ethiopia. Welcome, sir. The floor is yours. Hello.
Yeah, I'm very sorry. The host
No problem,
muted me. The host muted me. I couldn't be able to unmute it.
Welcome, sir. Welcome, sir.
Yeah. Now you can hear me. Your Excellency Ambassador Dr. Tamulgeta, Ethiopian Ambassador to India, Your Excellency Mr. Mamped, President of ICIB, distinguished investors and invited guests, good afternoon. On behalf of Ethiopian Investment Commission of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, I would like to extend my gratitude to the Embassy of Ethiopia in India and the Indian Chamber of International Business for organizing such important webinar on IT, ITES, BPO sector, which strengthen the bilateral investment relation of the two sisterly countries. The Ethiopian government accords great importance to the establishment of bilateral investment relation and will always support joint initiatives that increase flows in the volume of investment in this sector. Ethiopia is committed to developing a dynamic free economy that operates in the investment-friendly environment as a result of comprehensive and ongoing reform process that leads to greater openness to the global economy. Ethiopia has been engaged in the continued liberalization of key economic sector and identified priority sector for investment, which ICT sector is among the priority sector. The government of Ethiopia focused on building an inclusive digital economy, and as Ethiopia broadband capacity
I think there's a network issue. We'll wait for a minute. In these times where network is everything, this is the things that we have to live with. Mr. Demisov, can you get in touch with him and see if there's a technical issue?
Yeah, let me check.
Sure. Miss Steven, are you around?
Yes, I am.
Perfect. Please be on standby.
Yeah, I think unfortunately the office is under construction in the Investment Commission, and I think that's why the internet has been like this.
He is here. I can see him. One second.
I'm very sorry for the interruption. Now I think you can hear me.
Yes, sir. Please continue. Please continue.
Yeah. The government of Ethiopia is focused on building an inclusive digital economy. As Ethiopia's broadband capacity expands, its services and mobile services are expected to grow significantly in coming years. So the Ethiopian government understanding providing full-fledged infrastructure is basic for the ICT sector, on which many business activities highly dependent on. The need for dedicated operational facility make the sector a center of attention in availing the needed infrastructure. In recognition of this, the government of Ethiopia developed infrastructure for the ICT park with an initial objective of attracting foreign direct investment. And it's expected to stimulate the development of local entrepreneurship in digital economy, promote knowledge linkage among IT enterprises and with academic institutions, create jobs and others. Ethiopia seeks and will proactively work toward the flow of more Indian investments to this sector. Endowed with enormous opportunities, Ethiopia is open for business. I call upon the business and the investment community in India to come and invest in our beautiful and historical country. I truly hope that this forum or webinar will provide you with the right transactional platform and smooth landing strip for your investment in Ethiopia. In my concluding words, I reaffirm our commitment to meaningful engagement with you and extend the governments of Ethiopia highest assurance to facilitate the flow and orderly placement of Indian investment in Ethiopia. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Excellency. It is a pleasure and an honor for us to have you with us directly. Please do stick around. I'm sure there are a lot of questions that people would be having and which will be coming up for your team in the end. And it's a pleasure and an honor to have you with us here today. So with this opening word, we would now like to have the official presentation where we would like to have Ms. Levin, who's representing, who's a specialist at as an investment advisor at the Ethiopian Investment Commission. Ms. Levin Dagnashaw, welcome to today's forum. We are all waiting to listen to what you have to showcase with us.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Can you see my screen?
Actually, we can see everything that is on your screen.
How about now?
This is better now.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you all for attending this very important session for us. Thank you for the embassy for preparing this crucial opportunity for the Ethiopian investment sector. I would like to give you a highlight of what we mean by the opportunities in the ICT sector for Ethiopia. Let me just start with a bit of background on the country. I'm sure many of you, due to the long-going business relationship and diplomatic relationship between India and Ethiopia, you must know a lot of things about the country, but giving you some demographics may give you perspective and why we're talking about the ICT and the business opportunities overall in the country. So Ethiopia is a very, very large country, meaning that it's the second largest populated country in Africa with close to 120 million people. And of those population size, 70% of our population is youth under 30 years old, which is a very, very sometimes overwhelming, sometimes very resourceful for us to think about. So over 54 million active young and trainable labor force are engaged in the country. The literacy rate overall is 51.7%, according to 2017 World Bank data. The median age is 19 years old, but as I stated early on, 70% of the population is under the age of 30. We do have 50 public universities and close to 1,600 TVETs, and the rest private higher education, which makes a total sum of close to 1,906 higher tertiary education system exists in the country. And the public universities provide education free. Tertiary education is free in the country, and urban resident is about 23.1 million. Out of those residents, 81.8% are literate. The population growth shows about 2.5% every year. Our life expectancy is 65 years. Going to the economic aspects of the country, it's one of the fastest growing economics in Africa, close to 10% average growth has been recorded over the past 14 years. And the annual GDP is more than $107 billion in 2020. Our per capita income is close to $900. In the few years, we're trying to achieve being the middle income country in Africa. And in 2021, we generated an FDI inflow of 4.3 billion, majority of it being Indian companies coming in Ethiopia and investing due to the long-lasting relationship that we had. I would come up with other figures later on in my presentation, how the Indian companies have been present in the country and which sectors they have been investing in. And the government has already been ongoing on reform for the past 4 years. One of the reform agendas that the government dedicated is that to establish the country's digital transformation strategy, which is called Digital Ethiopia 2025. And in this strategy, there are different specific points that the government want to emphasize in, and one of the 4 pathways is the BPO IT-enabled services sector. So I would come up with other justifications why the government thought this is a specific focal area for the sector later on in my presentation. So coming back to Addis Ababa, our capital city, and where we expect this specific BPO/IT-enabled services company to locate themselves. Of course, we do have other metropolitan cities in the country as well, but Addis Ababa has a unique proposition because it has an international organizations and an international community located in Addis Ababa. It's the 3rd city in the world, being next to Geneva and New York, the 3rd international city in the world. It's a seat for the headquarters of African Union. Close to 115 embassies are located in the city. It's the hub for Ethiopian Airlines, which is a very large airline especially in Africa. 116 international and 23 local destinations are included in our airline, like including we do have a destination to New Delhi, Mumbai, and Bangalore. So the city hosts more than 100,000 international transistors through the Ethiopian Airlines every day. This is everyday transistors. It's a very large number. There are about 600 hotels that are high standard that could host the international community and overall the sector. So there are 14 international community schools. English proficiency is very high. In fact, starting from our secondary education platform, English is the language for taught, medium of communication. Our students are professional when it comes to English. Our time zone is GMT +3, which overlaps with Europe, USA, and Asian countries very well, which is a competitive advantage for us geographically. Additional working hours for the BPO business are set up here. Around 570 business offering a wide range of digital finance, e-commerce, transport sector, tech, and ecosystem services are operating mainly in Addis Ababa. So the city has its own proposition when you really deep dive and zoom in to look into. So the past 4 years, the government has been focusing on reforming and reevaluating the economic paths it took. So for the previous years, our focus mainly was on light manufacturing and other sectors, but the government reevaluated the sectors, the focal areas where the investment should be attracted, and 5 sectors has been identified as agriculture, manufacturing, mining, tourism, and the ICT and creative industries, which is very interesting because for the past few years and at least a decade, the government was mainly operating as ICT as an enabler rather than a sector by itself. So it's a very interesting time for us now, looking at the sector in another dimension, and trying to really leverage the opportunities that we have. So following that, many reform agendas were planted in the government strategies, starting from the homegrown economy agenda, which is a 10-year plan for the government to reform the economy. A lot of reforms were undergone. Just to mention a few of them, ease of doing business is one part of the sector that we are doing. We're working towards to. We want the investors to come and have the red carpet feel on establishing and even accessing information and accessing different public entities. So ease of doing business is one of the reform agendas that the government is highly pushing on. Efficient, transparent, predictable, and modern investment regulatory and administrative framework has been the other reform that the government is working on. Forging an enabling environment to create a productive and competitive private sector that creates jobs for the workforce in Ethiopia is the other pillar for the reform agenda. This includes access to infrastructure development for foreign companies to come in and invest in infrastructure development. This used to be a very closed sector for us, but now we're opening it to foreign investors to come and invest in those sectors as well. We are signing the African Trade-Free Service that would really help out on creating that linkage and market access with the rest of Africa. So having said this, for this specific sector, what makes Ethiopia attractive? That's the second topic that I would like to talk about, giving you the whole demographic representation of where we are, what we are, then why we wanted to really look into the BPO IT-enabled services sector is another thing. The market size for the BPO is expected to be around $11 billion. It's estimated to be $11 billion for Ethiopia, which is a very large amount of money. On top of that, it's untapped. This is a new dimension for us, a new sector for us. We want to establish Ethiopia as BPO destination, and this is the market size that we kind of are tapping into. So it's very attractive. The country is 12th most populous country in the world, which makes it, as I said early on in my presentation, which makes it very attractive. The talent is there. 70% of our population is under the age of 30. That makes it the workforce that would give you the access to abundant workforce, and of course that comes with a competitive cost. When we see into the infrastructure, we are very much keen in using green energy with a very competitive price. For example, power cost is about 0.06 US cents per kilowatt hour, which makes it very attractive for this specific sector, including data centers. We do have industrial parks, especially specialized in the ICT sector, which consists of 200 hectares in the capital, Addis Ababa. I will come back to that with a different slide because we want to see the ICT park in a very zoomed in approach. International telecom service providers are joining the economy. For example, Safaricom has joined recently. Until recently, we used to only have a government telecom provider, which is Ethio Telecom, a very, very large telecom provider. But for redundant purposes and for this sector to grow, we wanted to open the infrastructure development for foreign company as well, so that there is an option of redundancy and connectivity. So a very competitive real estate cost exists in Ethiopia. Average cost is about 500 USD per square meter, which is a very competitive cost when you compare it with Kenya, South Africa, which are trying to establish themselves as BPO destinations as well, including Rwanda, in fact. There have been a large investment in development of infrastructure relevant to the private sector that has been going on, especially in the past 4 years. And the third point that I would like to address, which I addressed early on in the presentation, is that we do have a very dynamic, evolving policy framework. As I said, this is a new area for us to tap in. Yes, of course, there are few BPO operating companies that has been existing in the country, and they have had different experience. But now the government has seen the potential in this sector, and the policy framework, the incentives that are being generated towards this sector are not only attractive, but also they're dynamic. We're on a learning phase, we're on a learning stage, which makes it very interesting for pioneer companies to come and shape the ecosystem in general. The government is very much open on learning and evolving towards making the enabling ecosystem very attractive. That being said, in the past 4 years only, the government had focused on the reform of policies and then made 80 plus reforms that really focuses on Ethiopia's ease of doing business / investment attraction. So there are incentives placed and regulatory frameworks that could enable this sector placed, but the real opportunity here is that the government believes that it's in a learning phase where this could be evolving and also a dynamic way to really partner up and shape the whole sector with the experience that we get from associations and companies like yours. This might be some of the data has been mentioned in my previous presentation, but two things that I really want to focus in is that the higher education capacity. As I said, like close to 2,000 universities and TVET colleges, private sectors, private colleges has been working on tertiary education. But what makes this very interesting is that for the past 10 plus years, the government had dedicated an education policy where it's called 70-30, where 70% of the enrolled students should be engaged in STEM-related enrollments, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So now that we're having those fruits graduating from those higher education, we do have abundant STEM graduates. Just to give you a perspective, each year from out of this 2,000 higher education facilities, 300,000 students graduate each year, which is a very large number. Out of this 300,000 graduates, 70% of them are STEM related graduates, which are software engineers, IT graduates, computer science, engineers, mathematicians, name it. So we do have abundant resource of degree holders that are engaged in tech environment and ready for such kind of market in general. So having said that, the abundancy comes with its own advantage, having a competitive talent cost, right? So the competitive talent cost is there because of the abundancy. The talent is pure with few upskilling. The experience of the previous private sectors that are already engaged in the sector mentions that with very little upskilling programs, these youngsters could be a high-end designers, software developers, data analysts, and etc. So this talent costs about $220 up to $550 per month for entry to mid-level. So these are ICT professionals. These are software engineers. You can accommodate such kind of proficient talent with this amount of money, which is mind-blowing in my experience. So the government has not only put in place the resources that needs to be that are used as an ingredient for BPO and IT-enabled services sector, but also it offers different incentives, as I mentioned earlier. So those incentives are categorized as two, mainly tax incentives and financial incentives, where tax incentives, attractive corporate income tax exemptions for exporters, exemption of foreign employees from salary income tax, duty and tax-free import permit for items, and simplified customs procedures are in place, already going on for the sector. Financial incentives includes easy access to banking services and provisions, repatriation of funds as provided under the relevant laws. So these are the enabling environment aside from the talent, the cost, the infrastructure that the government is offering. But makes this environment very interesting is the IT park. The ICT park, maybe some of you know it. It was established with the help of Wipro and Cisco. So Wipro, an Indian company, had a very, very huge role on formulating the ICT park with the Ethiopian government. So Wipro had a technical provision on forming this ICT park where it could be an ecosystem for all the players to come and create an ecosystem and an integrated business modality among themselves. So the ICT park is focused on attracting software developing companies, the BPO sector, the IT manufacturing even, and the R&D centers, the training centers, the incubation centers. So it's a very large space, as I told you, 200 hectares, and it was, it is aimed to create that integration among the players. So it's a specialized technology park with a very subsidized real estate and land cost, dedicated internet and power connection within the ICT park. Just to give you a perspective, the fiber connectivity is about the whole buildings are fiber connected, but it can support up to 10 GB per second speed, which is a very, very good infrastructure in my opinion. And what we want it to be is a very good sandbox for companies to come and try out different things, whereas if the country is not ready for those type of experiment modalities, but the ICT park is kind of a sandbox where the government dedicated a lot of resource for companies to grow and make the sector grow in general. So it has one-stop shop services, a startup ecosystem, R&D system, and overall. So the power and connectivity, the ICT park and elsewhere are very much attractive. Power is very cheap, especially compared to other African countries. It's about 0.06 US cents per kilowatt hour, which makes it very attractive for BPO, data center, and other ICT investments. So recently we have joined Safaricom and Ethio Telecom. Two telecom providers are already operational, and also there are different ISP providers, and also another telecom provider is expected to come. So this works. The infrastructure also works in the ICT park. So the ICT park, this is the design as you see it in the presentation. It has serviced land. A total of 113 hectares of serviced land is available for sublease. The lease is about 70 years and initially 30 years, but it could go up to 70 years. The real estate cost is very much attractive, as mentioned in the above slides. So it has a lot of things are incorporated in this park. It has one-stop service center, residential and landscaping, security, waste management, training and startup centers, IT and telecommunication, where the Ethiopian Ethio Telecom headquarters is placed there. Safaricom is building their data centers there. There are different players that could be accommodated in the space as well. There is water supply, power supply, redundant connectivity, recreational and social infrastructures are also incorporated in the park. These are some of the companies that are already based in the park. Just to wrap up and just to showcase that the relationship between India and Ethiopia is not a new thing. As per the Ministry of Innovation and Technology of Ethiopia, about 90% of companies in Ethiopia's ICT and ICT related activities are Indian companies. Indian business are ranked second in Ethiopia for foreign direct investment to Ethiopia. Over 600 Indian business are currently operating in Ethiopia, out of which 20 are engaged in ICT and ICT related activities. Mind you, knowing that India had built its economy on ICT, and it's a very good aspiration for Ethiopia to become 20 is not a large number. That's why we're having this conversation. And we want to explore, not only explore the market, but also explore the experience in general. So thank you very much. I hope I didn't take too much time, of course.
Not at all. Thank you, Ms. Fliven. That was really an informative session from your side, and we are very sure that we could really encash the demographic dividend, the adult literacy, the tax and financial incentive that the government is offering, and we could definitely take benefit of the ICT park that is there for us. Thank you very much for your informative session. And now I would like to call upon Ms. Tinku Gupta from Sahara Healthcare, and she will be talking about opportunities in medical transcription industry. Over to you, Ms. Tinku.
Yep. Thank you, Rajanji. Good afternoon to everyone. It was a very insightful presentation, and I understand the scope of IT is very much, and if I talk specifically about the medical transcription, that is one area I think which goes very well in the Ethiopian context. So, Rajanji, can I request you to run the PPT, please?
Just a second.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. My presentation today is on the opportunities of medical transcription business in general and its context in the Ethiopian country. So what is medical transcription? It is basically, it's a manual process of voice reports dictated by physicians and other healthcare professionals into text formats. It can be voice files, lecture notes, or other spoken materials. It is also one of the allied healthcare professions, which most of us may or may not be aware. It started in early 20th century when standardized medical records and data become critical for research, mainly for research. It was also originally recorded by medical stenographers in shorthand and gradually evolved with increased use of tape recorders, electronic typewriters, word processors, and today we have these digitally text on and preserved on computers. So that makes a lot of task easier, for the mainly for the treatment of patients. Can I move on to the next slide, please? So the scope of the career, it's a new avenue for employment generation, and as I would say that due to the flexibility of work, it's not necessary that the people, the medical transcriptionists, have to be present on site. Since it is a recorded version, it can always, people can work from home, which saves a lot of time and a lot of costs, administrative costs, which goes into the process. And who are these people? Who are the ones who are whom we call as medical transcriptionists? They are normal graduates with an excellent command over English, and who have to undergo certain training, which can span from 18 months to 2 years. And there are options of getting certified also as the healthcare documentation specialists or the registered healthcare documentation specialists. And this can be obtained from the Association of Healthcare Documentation Integrity. They are the sole authority in issuing these kind of certifications. And the certified medical transcriptionists also were eligible for US Department of Labor apprenticeship. So that shows that this is an emerging career. There's a lot of scope in this domain, and we can definitely look at this avenue as a career for the future. May I move on to the next slide? So what are the advantages of medical transcription? Because all the records are easily available, so the right treatment can be given and the right medication can also be given. The reason being is that whenever a person is treated, mainly we look at the medical history, which is in most cases not available. So by these records, we can easily access the medical history or the family history, and then the right treatment and the right medication can be given. The minimum error is also there because only the relevant points are noted and very carefully interpreted and noted. The accuracy of the records are also improved because of the technical aspect involved in it. There are certain softwares which fine tune this particular procedure. And then in many countries we are having this medical claims. The healthcare insurance companies are there, and they have a lot of paperwork to do in order to process the claims and settle them. With these access to these records, the digital records, the claims can be processed very easily. The documentation part is also very easy because the entire document about a person can easily be the continuity can be maintained. And as I mentioned, it's very cost effective because it reduces a lot of overhead expenses, and also the time can also be avoided. It can be managed very well. The sources of compiled relevant information is what goes into medical transcription. So we don't have to look at the irrelevant points or which are not related. We have only the relevant information available, and it's basically a very effective tool and a basic tool for health mapping. Otherwise, we don't usually go for medical checkups, and that's very much required. Next slide, please. So what is the market trend? According to a research survey that was conducted, the market value of medical transcription was estimated at $64.8 billion US dollars in 2020, and it's estimated to expand further at a computed annual growth rate of 5%, taking the figure from 2021 to 2028 to about 96.7 billion US dollars by the end of 2028. So preference due to the operational costs involved, training the people, setting up an infrastructure. So most companies or hospitals or healthcare providers, they always prefer to outsource these offshoring these activities, which I think in the Ethiopian context, because we have a large pool of talented people available, these activities can always add value to the country. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, these medical transcription, although it is the awareness may not be as much as was expected, but it's still is a very primary mechanism for all the physicians. The importance of the medical documents for settlement of claims is cannot be denied, and there is a huge scope of employment generation and global connectivity, because these activities are usually offshore, and upskilling or bringing up new talents is also a big area. So with these concluding remarks, I hope there is a lot of scope for the Ethiopian market to open up to these kind of possibilities. I end my presentation. Thank you. Over to you, Rajanji.
Thank you very much, Tinkuji. We are very sure that we can really think in line with what idea you have shared with us. And now I throw the floor for question and answers. Do we have questions? Okay, let me start with a question from my side. In year 2019, I represented ICIB, and we had an MOU with Addis Ababa Chamber of Commerce. And then I was the chair for international relations. And in 2019, that is pre-pandemic era. So we just started the discussion and all, and then this pandemic came. So I'm very sure that with this initiation from the Embassy, Her Excellency, and the Ethiopian Investment Commission, we can definitely take the business ahead. So one question from my side is, where do we see the skill development and tie up with the universities? And how can the Ethiopian Investment Commission help us to think from that angle? Because there are a lot of projects, e-governance project that can be initiated, but that cannot be done without the local support. So we will be needing skilled IT graduates who can put in those hard efforts of bringing those softwares in place. And then we will be needing local partners also. So His Excellency, Mr. Daniel, can you throw some light on it? So can you unmute yourself, please?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I couldn't be able to unmute myself. I'm sorry. Thank you so much. Thank you for the presenters as well. I hope you've got highlight about opportunities that Ethiopia offers. So in addressing your concerns about skill developments, during the presentation, Feven has addressed that the skill development in Ethiopia, like we do have a lot of public universities, and also we do have private owned universities here. I can say most of them, I can say more than 90% of the universities, either a bit public or private, they are providing courses, and also specialized. There are universities specialized in providing courses in computer science, software engineer, or IT related courses. So currently we are providing computer science software engineers at bachelor degree, at master's degree, even at PhD level. So regarding the skill development and looking for skilled manpower is not an issue in Ethiopia, as we are also have more than 1 million graduates from this IT and computer science sector. So we can directly link you with universities so that you can work closely with them. And we do have 2 major universities here in capital city, Science and Technology University, which is specializing in science and technology and IT related subjects. And also we do have one science and technology located in outskirts of the capital, specializing same in engineering, computer science, software engineering. So we can easily connect you with them so that you can also closely work with universities and tap skills and developments that you require from universities.
Thank you very much. We have a few more questions in the chat box. I'll just read it out. Do you have a directory of IT consulting firms of Ethiopia with whom we can connect? This question is from Consulting Consortium.
Can I jump in?
Please, please.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead.
Okay. Just to add a few more things about the upskilling program, the commissioner has stated very well that almost all of our universities have the software engineering, IT, computer science, and different engineering departments integrated in their existing curricula. But the other interesting thing about the Ministry of Education has already launched a new curriculum where at least everybody that is enrolled in universities needs to take Python, C++, and Java, whether they are going to be enrolled in software engineering or not. As a freshman, these are the skills that are being incorporated in the new curriculum, which makes them very much suitable for upskilling programs, whether they are graduated as IT professionals or not. They could easily redirect their career towards IT with few upskilling programs. That's one thing. The other is universities are now dedicated according to Center of Excellencies. So those Center of Excellencies has a very, very unique way of doing things. So one of the informations that we get from the Ministry of Education is that, for example, software engineering is a 5-year-long degree. So in the final year, where they have the final semester, they could dynamically change the curriculum if a market is there, if an investor comes to, for example, they gave us an example. For example, Ethio Telecom, one of the telecom providers in Ethiopia, wanted network engineers. But here in Ethiopia, network engineering is not given as one curricula, or I mean, it's not given as a degree even. So what they did was they kind of linked it with the university, and the university redirected and reformed the existing curriculum so that these students can be enrolled as network engineers. And then when they come out, they got a guaranteed job at the Ethio Telecom. So if companies are going to be committing for creating jobs, the universities have the dynamic and the flexibility to really adjust according to the investors or the market's demand. The other thing is we do have upskilling companies that do upskilling programs. After these engineers or graduates have been graduated, they kind of gives them 3 months, 6 months training so that they would be ready for the market. So that kind of arrangement would be also could be facilitated from our side. The other thing that you have mentioned is the other question is whether we do have an IT directory of list of IT companies that are here. We do have an ICTET, an association called ICTET. It's a collection of IT private sectors in Ethiopia, and we could easily link you with them so that you would have an access for their members as well.
Yeah, to complement what Kevin said, we do have foreign companies listed here at the IAC. We can link you with those companies investing in Ethiopia. And if you need even local companies directory, we can also provide you all the detailed information from our directory. So we do have all the information that you may need regarding the lists and information about the company investing in this sector.
Okay. We have another question from Simba Fiber, the business opportunity for ISPs, internet service providers.
Okay. Thank you so much. During the presentation, Steven mentioned that Ethiopia opened up the telecom sector very recently. Now we do have 2 operators in Ethiopia, the one owned by the public and also the other is Safaricom. So this opening up of this telecom sector has been completed. The phase 1 is completed. The government is looking for second phase, opening up of the remaining public-owned telecom. So the government is working on that. There is an opportunity in this sector as well.
Right, and I'm pretty sure that there's another question from Mr. Rajiv Gosain with respect to the voice over internet protocol product like contact center, which is essential for BPO industry over there. So I'm definitely sure that that can also add a lot of value.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Okay, so there's a question from Mr. Rajiv Gosain, who is into VoIP products like voice over internet protocol product for contact centers. So they can also get a very good opportunity over there for the BPO industry.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, it's also one of the things that we're working on. Voice over IP policy is being drafted by the government.
Okay.
It's almost finalized. So if these people, from my understanding, they want to do venture capital, if that is the specific demand, you could look into the ecosystem and try to find local companies that you can you can couple up with. But if you want to establish yourself, that's also another potential area that we're looking forward to.
Fine. So I think we are done with the questions. Fine, then let's move on to the closing remarks. So I'm Rajan Thaukar, Vice President from the Central Zone of Indian Chamber of International Business. Would like to thank Her Excellency Dr. Tizita Mulegeta, Ambassador of Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia to India. His Excellency Mr. Daniel Teresa, Deputy Commissioner of Ethiopian Investment Commission, Ms. Feven Dagana Cho, Investment Advisor, Ethiopian Investment Commission, and Mrs. Tinku Gupta for gracing this event and giving insightful information about how India and Ethiopia can work together and take the bilateral relationship to the next height. So I would like to thank each and every one of you who have joined us at such a short notice for this webinar, and I close this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency. Thank you so much for being here with us, and a big thank you to the Ministry and the Ethiopian Investment Commission for being part of this. It was an honor and pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you very much.